Morning, welcome to Colin's Reading Aloud Project Part 78, another 1,000 words, starting now. Disappointedly, disappointing, disappointingly, disappointment, disappointments, disappoints, disapprobation, disapprobations, disapprobative, disapprobatory, disappropriate, disappropriate, disappropriated, disappropriates, disapproval, disapprovals, disapprove, disapproved, disapprover, disapprovers, disapproves, disapproving, disapprovingly, disarm, disarmament, disarmaments, disarmed, disarmer, disarmers, disarming, disarmingly, disarms, disarrange, disarranged, disarrangement, disarrangements, disarranges, disarranging, disarray, disarrayed, disarraying, disarrays, disarticulate, disarticulated, disarticulates, disarticulation, disarticulating, disarticulation, disarticulator, disarticulators, deezers, disassemble, disassembled, disassembler, disassemblers, disassembler, disassemblers, disassembles, disassemblies, disassembling, disassembly, disassimilate, disassimilated, disassimilates, disassimilating, disassimilation, disassimilative, disassociate, disassociated, disassociates, disassociating, disassociation, disassociations, disaster, disasters, disastrous, disastrously, disattire, disattired, disattires, disattiring, disattribution, disattributions, disattune, disattuned, disattunes, disattuning, disauthorized, disauthorized, disauthorizes, disauthorizing, disauthorized, disauthorized, disauthorizes, disauthorizing, disavaunced, disavaunced, disavances, disavancing, disaventure, disaventurous, disaventure, disaventures, disavouch, disavouched, disavouches, disavouching, disavow, disavowable, disavowal, disavowals, disavowed, disavowedly, disavower, disavours, disavowing, disavows, disband, disbanded, disbanding, disbandment, disbandments, disbands, disbar, disbark, disbarked, disbarking, disbarks, disbarment, disbarments, disbarred, disbarring, disbars, disbelief, disbeliefs, disbelieve, disbelieved, disbeliever, disbelievers, disbelieves, disbelieving, disbelievingly, disbench, disbenched, disbenches, disbenching, disbenefit, disbenefits, disbodied, disbosom, disbosomed, disbosoming, disbosoms, disbound, disbowel, disbowelled, disbowelling, disbowelled, disbowelling, disbowels, disbranch, disbranched, disbranches, disbranching, disbud, disbudded, disbudding, disbuds, disburden, disburdened, disburdening, disburdenment, disburdenments, disburdens, dispersible, dispersal, dispersals, disperse, dispersed, disbursement, disbursements, disperser, dispersers, disperses, dispersing, disburthen, disburthened, disburthening, disburthens, disc, discage, discaged, discages, discaging. Let's go back and do those again because I realise what they are. Discage, discaged, discages, discaging, discal, discalciate, discalciates, discalced, discandering, discanderings, discandy, discandied, discandies, discandy, discandying, discandyings, discant, discanted, discanter, discanters, discanting, discants, discapacitate, discapacitate, discapacitated, discapacitates, discapacitating, discard, discardable, discarded, discarder, discarders, discarding, discardment, discardments, discards, discarnate, discase, discased, discases, discasing, disced, decept, deceptation, deceptations, deceptatious, deceptator, deceptatorial, deceptators, decepted, decepting, decepts, discern, discernible, discernibly, discerned, discerner, discerners, discernible, discernibly, discerning, discerningly, discernment, discernments, discerns, discerp, discerped, discerpability, discerpible, discerping, discerps, discerptible, discerption, discerptions, discerptive, discharge, dischargeable, discharged, dischargee, dischargees, discharger, dischargers, discharges, discharging, dischuffed, dischurch, dischurched, dischurches, dischurching, disky, disguide, disguided, disguides, disguiding, disciform, distinct, disking, disciple, discipled, disciples, discipleship, discipleships, disciplinable, disciplinal, disciplinant, disciplinants, disciplinarian, disciplinarians, disciplinarily, disciplinarity, disciplinarium, disciplinariums, disciplinary, discipline, disciplined, discipliner, discipliners, disciplines, discipling, disciplining, discipular, decision, decisions, disclaim, disclaimed, disclaimer, disclaimers, disclaiming, disclaims, disclamation, disclamations, discless, disclike, disclimax, disclimaxes, disclose, disclosed, discloser, disclosers, discloses, disclosing, disclosed, disclosure, disclosures, disco, discoboli, discobolos, discobolus, discoboluses, discode, discoer, discoers, discos, discographer, discographers, discographic, discographical, discographies, discography, discoid, discoidal, discoids, discoing, discologies, discologist, discologists, discology, discolor, discoloration, discolorations, discolored, discoloring, discolorment, discolorments, discolors, discolor, discoloration, discolorations, discolored, discoloring, discolorment, discolorments, discolors, discombobulate, discombobulated, discombobulates, discombobulate, discombobulated, discombobulates, discommeducin, discommeducins, discomfit, discomfited, discomfitor, discomfiters, discomfiting, discomfits, discomfiture, discomfitures, discomfort, discomfortable, discomforted, discomforting, discomforts, discommendable, discommend, discommendable, discommendation, discommended, discommending, discommends, discommission, discommissioned, discommissions, discommode, discommoded, discommodes, discommoding, discommodious, discommodiously, discommodities, discommodity, discommon, discommoned, discommoning, discommons, discommunities, discommunity, discompose, discomposed, discomposedly, discomposes, discomposing, discomposingly, discomposure, discomposures, discommicete, 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 discommicitus, disconcert, disconcerted, disconcertedly, disconcerting, disconcertingly, disconcertion, disconcertions, disconcertment, disconcertments, disconcerts, disconfirm, disconfirmation, disconfirmed, disconfirming, disconfirms, disconformable, disconformities, disconformity, disconnect, disconnected, disconnectedly, disconnector, disconnectors, disconnecting, disconnection, disconnections, disconnective, disconnects, disconnection, disconnections, disconsent, disconsented, disconsenting, disconsents, disconsolate, disconsolately, disconsolation, disconsolations, discontent, discontented, discontentedly, discontentful, discontenting, discontentment, discontentments, discontents, discontiguities, discontiguity, discontiguous, discontinuance, discontinuances, discontinuation, discontinue, discontinued, discontinua, discontinuous, discontinues, discontinuing, discontinuities, discontinuity, discontinuous, discontinuously, discophile, discophiles, discophoran, discophorans, discophorus, discord, discordance, discordances, discordancies, discordancy, discordant, discordantly, discorded, discordful, discording, discords, discorporate, discorporated, discorporates, discorporating, discos, discotheque, discotheques, discounsel, discounselled, discounselling, discounselled, discount, discountable, discounted, discountenance, discountenanced, discountenances, discounter, discounters, discounting, discounts, discourage, discourageable, discouraged, discouragement, discouragements, discourager, discouragers, discourages, discouraging, discouragingly, discore, discord, discourse, discoursing, discoursal, discourse, discoursed, discourser, discourses, discourses, discoursing, discoursive, discourtize, discourteous, discourteously, discourtesies, discourtesy, discover, discoverable, discovered, discoverer, discoverers, discoveries, discovering, discovers, discovert, discoverture, discovertures, discovery, discredit, discreditable, discreditably, discredited, discrediting, discredits, discreet, discreeter, discreetest, discreetly, discreetness, discreetnesses, discrepance, discrepancies, discrepancies, discrepancy, discrepant, discrepantly, discreet, discreetly, discreetness, discreetnesses, discreeter, discreetest, discretion, discretional, discretionally, discretionarily, discretionary, discretions, discretive, discretively, discretives, discriminable, discriminably, discriminant, discriminants, discriminate, discriminated, discriminately, discriminates, discriminating, discrimination, discriminations, discriminative, discriminator, discriminators, discriminatory, discrown, discrowned, discrowning, discrowns, discs, disculpate, disculpate, disculpated, disculpates, disculpating, discumber, discumbered, discumbering, discumbers, discure, discured, discures, discuring, discursion, discursions, discursist, discursists, discurse, discursive, discursively, discursiveness, discursory, discursus, discursuses, discus, discusses, discuss, discussable, discussant, discussants, disgust, discusser, discussers, discusses, discussable, discussing, discussion, discussional, discussions, discussive, discussives, discussion, discussions, disdain, disdained, disdainful, disdainfully, disdainfulness, disdaining, disdains, disease, diseased, diseasedness, diseasednesses, diseaseful, diseases, diseasing, diseconomies, diseconomy, disedge, disedged, disedges, disedging, disembark, disembarkation, disembarkations, disembarked, disembarking, disembarkment, disembarkments, disembarks, disembarrass, disembarrassed, disembarrasses, disembarrassing, disembellish, disembellished, disembellishes, disembellishing, disembitter, disembittered, disembittering, disembitters, disembitters, disembodied, disembodies, disembodiment, disembodiments, disembody, disembodying, disembogue, disemboged, disembogement, disembogments, disembogues, disemboging, disembosom, disembosomed, disembosoming, disembosoming, disembosoms, disembowel, disembowelled, disemboweling, disembowelled, disemboweling, disembowelment, disembowelments, disembowels, disembrangle, disembrangled, disembrangles, disembangling, disembroil, disembroiled, disembroiling, disembroils, disemburden, disemburdened, disemburdening, disemburdens, disemploy, disemployed, disemploying, disemployment, disemployments, disemploys, disempower, disempowered, disempowering, disempowerment, disempowerments, disempowers, disembowel, disembowelled, disemvoweling, disembowels, disenable, disenabled, disenablement, disenablement, disenables, disenabling, disenchain, disenchained, disenchaining, disenchains, disenchant, disenchanted, disenchanter, disenchanters, disenchanting, disenchantingly, disenchantment, disenchantments, disenchantress, disenchants, disenclose, disenclosed, disencloses, disenclosing, disencumber, disencumbered, disencumbering, disencumberment, disencumbers, disencumbrance, disencumbrances, disendow, disendowed, disendower, disendowers, disendowing, disendowment, disendowments, disendows, disenfranchise, disenfranchised, disenfranchises, disengage, disengaged, disengagedness, disengagement, disengagements, disengages, disengaging, disennoble, disennobled, disennobles, disenobling, disenroll, disenrolled, disenrolling, disenrollings, disenrolls, disenshroud, disenshrouds, disenshrouded, disenshrouding, disenshrouds, disenslave, disenslaved, disenslaves, disenslaving, disentail, disentailed, disentailing, disentailment, disentailments, disentails, disentangle, disentangled, disentanglement, disentangles, disentangling, disenthrall, disenthralled, disenthrall, disenthralled, disenthralling, disenthralment, disenthralls, disenthralment, disenthralments, disenthralls, disenthroned, disenthroned, Disenthrones, disenthrowning, disentitled, disentitles, disentitling, disentomb, disentombed, disentombing, disentombs, disentrail, disentrailed, disentrailing, disentrails, disentrain, disentrained, disentraining, disentrainment, disentrainments, disentrains, disentrance, disentrance, disentranced, disentrancement, disentrances, disentrancing, disentrail, disentrailed, disentrails, disentrailing, disentwine, disentwined, disentwines, disentwining, disenvelop, disenveloped, disenveloping, disenvelops, disenviron, disenvironed, disenvironing, disenvirons, disepalus, disequilibrate, disequilibrated, disequilibrate, disequilibria, disequilibrium, disequilibriums, disespouse, disespoused, disespouses, disespousing, disestablish, disestablished, disestablishes, disestablishing, disesteem, disesteemed, disesteeming, disesteems, disestimation, disestimations, disser, dissers, disuse, disuse, disfame, disfamed, disfames, disfaming, disfavour, disfavoured, disfavouring, disfavours, disfavoured, disfavour, disfavoured, disfavourer, disfavourers, disfavouring, disfavours, disfeature, disfeatured, disfeaturement, disfeaturements, disfeatures, disfeaturing, disfellowship, disfellowshipped, disfellowships, disfiguration, disfigurations, disfigure, disfigurement, disfigured, disfigurement, disfigurements. I'll stop there because I've miscounted where I think 1,000 is, so we'll stop there, which is around about 1,000 hopefully, and I'll see you tomorrow.